Okay, so in this video, we're going to go over how to use while loops with indexing with turtles. So if you haven't done so already, please open up the turtle indexing folder or jar. Um, and last time with turtle indexing, we know that we've created 4 turtles and they're anonymous, they don't have names. So the only way we can get access or to them, right, is through the indexing notation. And that means we need to, if we want to, get the first turtle to move forward, we have to say, okay, well, we first need to get access to this array, and then we want the first element, which is at index 0, and we want that turtle to go forward, right? Okay, so this is how we did things last time, and let's do this, right? So let's have so because while loops, we know that uh, while loops require things to be repeatable. So let's get rid of this, and I'm going to copy 1 down here, and I'm going to make that 1, and I'm going to make the last one 3. Okay, so that means we have repeatable things, and the only thing that's changing is the index, right? So basically what we're doing is we're just moving each turtle forward by 100, okay? So let's compile this. Hit compile again just to make sure. Run this, and you'll see that all turtles have moved forward. Okay, so let's close this, and let's open these up again. So um, let me actually expand this. So how do we simulate these lines with a while loop, right? So what we've seen before with the draw rectangle or draw square uh, example is that in the while loop we can sort of keep track of how many sides we've drawn, and each time we loop, the number of sides increment by 1. Does anything look like they're incrementing by 1 here? Okay, so that's something that should immediately come up is the index, right? The index starts at 0, and it just keeps moving up and up by 1. Okay, and so let's do that, right? So while, and again, we don't know what the condition is. Maybe we could let that go. But what we do know is we want each turtle, we want this thing that is repeatable, this line that is repeatable. We want this. We want the first turtle to move forward by 100. Okay, and actually, I don't want um, I don't want just the first turtle to move forward. Right? I want all the turtles to move forward. So how do I do that? Right? So again, let's actually go back to here, and let's pretend that there was a variable that we can sort of replace these numbers with. Okay, so I'm going to create a variable named index, and actually I want you to do that as well before I do it. So pause this video and try to see if you can initialize that index variable. Okay, so the way we initialize this index variable is first I know that it's an integer, so I say int index, and since the first one starts with 0, I'm just going to say equal 0. Okay, and now I can replace these with index, and however, right, we know that we don't want index here. For however many times we've done this already, right, we don't just want index to be here. First, we want index to be 1, and then we could put index over there. And let me just put the semicolon there. Okay. Now I can just copy this over. I want to say 2, and now we can put index there. I'm going to put 3 for the last one, and then now I can put index over there. Okay, so let me comment these out. And so now we're doing the same thing as before, except we're using a variable, right? So now let's head over to here, compile, run, and hit OK. And as expected, we're still moving every turtle forward by 100. Okay. So now what we want to do is, again, we want to make some of these things repeatable. Okay. So again, what we could do is increment, right? So increment, you're saying this, index plus 1, index plus 1, and index plus 1 here. Okay, so now we have some things that are repeatable. Now the way we sort of chunk these lines up is a bit strange, but what I challenge you to do is to see, which line should be first. So should it be this line or should it be this line first in the while loop? So let's try something, right? And first, before we can even do anything with the while loop, we need to move this up, right? So that this way we have the condition here, which is going to say what? So we want to go through every one of these, and we want index to be 0, 1, 2, 3, right? So basically what we want to say is while index is less than 4, right? So we don't want 0, 1, 2, 3 is already 4 times. Okay, so we don't want the 5th time where index is 4. So that's why we don't have the less than or equal sign or equal sign. Okay, so now if we have this, we can move this up. And now the question is, where should this be? Because it seems like we need to do this before this line. We need to increment index before we do this line. So let's try that. Okay, so let's do that. And I'm going to comment these out. And let's compile. Run this. And actually, I already see an error, right? So what I see is I see that the first turtle does not move forward, but the latter 3 do. And we're also getting an array index out of bounds error. Okay, so what happened? Let's use the debugger to find out. Okay, so we've used debugger before. So let me run this again. Okay, so move this here. This over here should be the code, and this over here should be the debugger. Move this up, shrink that. Okay, so you have index is 0. Okay, so when we step in here, actually the first thing that gets executed is the increment, right? So when we step, we have index is 1 now, but we didn't even move the first turtle forward. We just started with the, or the second turtle, and we're going to say, okay, well, turtle array 2 or 1, turtle array 1, right? So turtle array 1 is this second one. So we're going to step, and indeed, we're moving the second one. So now, index is 1, 1 is still less than 4, so we continue with the while loop, and we increment index again, and now we are moving that one next. Okay, so we can step in, step in, step in like that. Okay, so now, what is going to happen here? Well, index is 3 right now. If I execute this line, what is that going to be? Index is going to be 4. Okay, and as we've seen before, in this turtle array, there is no such turtle that is at the 4th index. And so what happens? What happens here is that you run into an array out of bounds, index out of bounds error, because there is no 5th element, and in other words, there is no element associated with the index 4. Okay, so that's what happened. Let me terminate these and just do this. All right, so now we know first of all, the first turtle didn't even move. So that means we should maybe probably move this up and then put the increment after. Okay, so now let's compile. Let's run this again. Right, and now we've successfully moved all the turtles forward. Okay, so I hope you can see how this is more fascinating, right? This means that basically this is the same as a for each loop. You want to include this line as well with the while loop. And one of the most common things, even with more experienced developers, is sometimes they forget to um, update the counter, sort of like the counter variable. In this case, it's an index variable, and they'll have an infinite loop. They'll run into an infinite loop because if they don't have this line, uh, well, index is just going to stay 0 all the time, right? We're not doing this. In other words, we're basically not doing these lines. And I think we'll have a chance to practice in class, like how do we ensure that we always update, what are some common misconceptions or mistakes that we make as developers. Yeah, so I hope that this video sort of helps cover the while loops and helps you understand things better. And then we'll apply these while loops to pictures.